XM. I'm your host, Caroline Hendershot, joined by Ethan Greenberg here in the Audi Performance Studio. We will be joined by you're right here, by Eric Allen and by Leger Douzable as well, virtually. But let's just get right into it. The Jets dropped to 4-12 after losing to the Bills 40-14 today. Leger, I know you're with us. What do you think went amiss for the Jets in tonight's game?
Yeah, there was a few things, Caroline. First and foremost, when you get near the red zone or actually in the red zone, you have to come away with points. That's kind of really been the Achilles heel for the Jets offense the last few weeks. Because when you look at the totality of the game, Caroline and Ethan, they only punted 2 times on the game. So they either scored or they turned it over on downs or they turned it over. So that has been the issue. Turnovers being the second biggest thing. You cannot turn the ball over that many times. If I'm not mistaken, I believe 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble from Garrett Wilson. If you lose the turnover margin, the percentages go up for you losing the game. So those were the 2 biggest things. If you just want to look at it from top down, what was the biggest issue for the Jets losing this game? One, if you don't score points in the red zone, it's hard to win in this league. And then if you turn the ball over more than the other team, it's extremely hard to win in this league.
It kind of felt like the same thing for me, what happened last week against the Rams, because we talked about in the pregame show, the Jets were able to sustain drives, especially early against the Rams. We're talking 14-play drives, 15-play drives, 11-play drives. And today against the Bills, the Jets had 3 drives that ended in Buffalo territory, none of which came away with points, whether that's a field goal or a touchdown. And so I think to Leger's point, that's really where the Jets struggled, at least early. And, I was kind of surprised, Leger, at the usage of Breece Hall early in the game compared to later in the game, because in the first half, Breece Hall averaged 6.5 yards per carry. He had 39 yards on 6 attempts. And we're talking about inclement weather being a factor as well. It really felt like the Jets were moving the football on the ground well. And then Leger, at the end of the game, Breece Hall ends up with just 10 attempts for 45 yards.
Ethan, I'm so glad you brought that up because you gave the first half stat. I'm going to give you the first quarter stat. He had 4 carries for 36 yards. He was averaging over 9 yards a carry. And then all of a sudden, they just stopped going to him. I didn't understand it. Me and you, and even Carolina and EA, we talked ad nauseum in the pregame about getting Breece Hall going, getting him going in the run game, because he has been an Achilles heel for the Buffalo Bills when it comes to running the football. And we talk about how he's a complete back. You can get it to him on some checkdowns, and he can take a 5-yard check down 50 or 60 yards. So for him to only have 11 touches in the entirety of a game, I just don't understand it. I thought Coach Downing actually did a really good job scheming some things up early in this game for him, but then they just went away from him, and I don't have an explanation as to why.
So, Leger, the Jets were down only 12-0 going into the half. Do you think that was what changed at halftime that kind of made things maybe go off the rails a little bit, or was there something else in your mind?
No, you're talking about in regards to not getting Breece Hall the ball more, or just period? Just
in general, but more so just the Jets' offense.
Yeah. Well, not really, because that's only a 2-score game. And when you look at it, Ethan, he said it eloquently and mapped it out for us perfectly. When you look at them having 3 good drives into Buffalo territory and not coming away with points, when you go back and look at that score, it should have been at worst 9-6, right? Again, I love the aggression because you're not going to the playoffs, but you have to understand the ebbs and flows to the game. I think this was an issue for the Jets last week versus the Rams. You got to reward your defense for playing really well. Like sometimes taking a field goal will boost the energy on the sideline, because nothing is worse, to Ethan's point, when you have a 10-play drive, 14-play drive, and then you come away with no points, right? Again, they say field goals don't win you games. They don't lose them very often either, right? So, like, the way this Jets defense has played, more specifically in the first half of the last 2 weeks, you got to reward them by having some points on the board, because when you go back out on defense, I can speak from firsthand knowledge, when we go back out there in defense and we're fighting our tails off and we're holding the opponent down, when we see a scoreboard and we see points in that category for us, gives you a little bit more energy. So I think, yes, I understand you want to be ultra aggressive because you're not going to the playoffs, right? But I think in certain scenarios, you got to take the 3 once it's given to you, especially in a game like that where it's back and forth in the first half. And you talked about it, Carolina. It's still only up being 12-0 at half. At worst, it probably should have been 9-6 at half.
Ethan, I'll come to you with this one. Was there a moment where you felt like maybe the momentum changed, whether that was first half or second half?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if I'm going with like a momentum-changing play, but I think something that really set the 28-point second half, like as the snowball started becoming a little bit of an avalanche in the second half, I think it was the second interception from Aaron Rodgers. The first one that Gregory Rousseau got his paw up, I mean, Jim Nantz and Tony Romo did a very good job of breaking that play down, where Aaron Rodgers looking for Devontae Adams quickly in the flat, and then you see Carter Warren, who is in for Morgan Moses, on a quick play. They're talking about that you're not supposed to block, you're not supposed to let the defender come up on you, you're supposed to attack. And so instead, Rousseau gets his paw up. That's a long defender, very similar to like Will McDonald and how lanky he is. Gregory Rousseau is a very tall defender. He gets the paw up, it falls in Jordan Phillips' hands. That is like, all right, that's maybe like a fluky interception, right? And Aaron Rodgers done a great job of not turning the football over the last X amount of games. And for me, I think that the second interception, when Christian Benford, his pick results in the first points of the second half for Buffalo. To me, that's really where it started to go downhill for the Jets.
Now, I know this wasn't obviously the outcome that everybody wanted, but we do have to just kind of touch on the one very impressive note today. We did see some history with Garrett Wilson eclipsing 1,000 receiving yards on this season, so he does become the 5th player in NFL history to achieve 80 or more receptions and 1,000 or more receiving yards in their first 3 career seasons. Leger, I'll start with you. How impressive has his short career been?
I mean, it's definitely impressive, Caroline. When you talk about the mixtures of different quarterbacks he's had to play with, so you talk about not building that continuity up with just one quarterback. Essentially, he's done it with 4 or 5 quarterbacks, maybe even 6, if I'm not mistaken. We talk about his first 3 years, and for him to still go over 1,000 yards every year, it shows you the skill set this guy possesses. I mean, look at this back shoulder catch with one hand. I mean, good Lord, Garrett Wilson, again, week after week, just has highlight reel type catches. So it's very impressive to do what he does. And you see the list of players he's on with: Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Odell Beckham Jr., and Mike Thomas. That's elite air when you talk about guys that have played at an elite level in this league for a long time. So it's definitely great history to be made if you're Garrett Wilson. I think it even means more because he hasn't had a steady quarterback. A lot of those guys had a steady quarterback throwing them the ball every single year. Garrett has had to play with a different quarterback every year.
And not to mention multiple play callers as well. You're thinking about Mike LaFleur, his rookie season, then even this season, Nathaniel Hackett shifting to Todd Downing. Like, Garrett Wilson has been a productive player out wide, whether it's a different play caller, whether it's a different signal caller, like passing the ball to him. And to Leger's point, even the catch today, which was, an unfortunate loss for the Jets, but you're talking about the first touchdown that was on the board. That's a crazy catch, okay? Like, he goes up, he snags it in one-handed, sticky coverage from Brandon Codrington on that play. And look, like Garrett Wilson, the question is not about his talent. Obviously, you want to see a player like that succeed as well. And I think that Garrett Wilson, in his short-lived career, is on track to be one of the best Jets receivers ever in franchise history. And obviously, with the league, players like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, like Leger said, being a part of that list is ultra impressive as well.
Yeah, so I know it wasn't the exact score that everybody wanted to see, but it was something special that we all did get to witness today with Garrett Wilson. Now let's go up to Buffalo and hear from interim head coach Jeff Ulbrich and his thoughts post-game.
Outcoached us, outplayed us from really the second half on, so not good enough.
How would you assess the effort out there today?
I thought the effort wasn't the issue. The effort was fine. It was the execution. It was all of it. We're going to take a good hard look at the film and assess what exactly happened. But we didn't play well enough by any means in any facet in any of the 3 phases.
Address the penalties.
Absolutely, and that starts and ends with me. So I got to do a better job of making sure that obviously it doesn't happen, but there's a stronger understanding of why that can't happen. You can't overcome that against teams, especially a team like Buffalo that's rolling right now, playing elite football. So it killed us, got us behind the sticks multiple times, extended drives for them on offense, and not good enough.
Coach, you kind of seemed like as we're keeping it close on, when it started to separate a little bit, your guys were melting down a little bit, maybe working is there explanation for that? Just loss of discipline.
Well, absolutely. The penalties and some of the execution stuff is a discipline thing for sure, and we need to be better in those moments. But as far as melting down in you saying in the drives or in the quarters or just in general, yeah. I'm going to take a hard look at it and have some hard conversations with some of the guys, and just obviously I have not communicated that well enough the impact of some of these penalties, and you got to do what's right for the team over what's right for you in that moment, and we're losing touch with that too often.
You ever think you'd see the day where Aaron gets called out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I will look at the tape, but I just thought it was in his defense, he was going to erase a mistake, and he was busting his butt over there, and I'll take a look at that one.
How do you think Aaron played today?
I got to look at the tape. Honestly, I didn't get to see a whole lot of the offense. I was doing a lot of defensive adjustments, especially that first half and a good part of that third quarter. So we'll see when I get a good look at the tape.
How tough it is it?
Now, Leger, there's only so much Ulbrich can say before actually diving into the tape and getting a good look at the film. But what did you think of what he had to say post-game?
Yeah, I think it was abundantly clear that the penalties are something that they have to correct. It's been an issue the entire year. If I'm not mistaken, 15 penalties, you're not going to win games, right? We have talked about already the turnovers all being a bugaboo for the Jets and one of the main reasons why they lost this game. But if you keep getting penalties and you keep letting the offense extend drives, you make it so much easier for the offense. Now, we always used to say those combative penalties, Caroline and Ethan, those are happening during the game, right? Sometimes you might get a hold because a guy, just out-leverages you, and also as offensive lineman, you don't know where the running back or quarterback is, right? And sometimes you get a DPI because, you might be just a little handsy at the top of the route. You want to rely on your technique and fundamentals, but sometimes you get beat. That just happens in the NFL, but it's the post-snap penalties that he talked about, right? The roughing, the unnecessary roughness, the roughing the passer. Those are the ones that you cannot allow. The post-play penalties, those will end you in a game, in any game in the NFL, and those were the ones that he really spoke about. And I think that's been the issue for the Jets this entire season. Yes, you want an aggressive team, but you also have to be smart, right? You got to play through the echo of the whistle, not after the whistle is already done. So those were the penalties that really did in the Jets today.
Right. Those penalties have been a sticking point for the Jets this year. And linebacker Quincy Williams spoke about that a little bit post-game. We'll get to that later. But first, we're going to hear from Eric Allen and quarterback Tyrod Taylor, who actually came in during the fourth quarter to relieve Aaron Rodgers.
Thanks, guys. Tyrod, what's going through your mind when you get the call in the fourth?
Go out there and get some completions. Obviously, as a quarterback, completions get you in the rhythm, getting the first one. But at the end of the day, you want to put a scoring drive together, and we was able to do that twice. Obviously, score wasn't the outcome wasn't what we wanted it to be. But at the end of the day, you got to control what you can at that very moment. And I think the guys went out there. We didn't lose confidence as a team. We competed to the end, and that's all you can ask from the guys.
What did you say to the guys when they knew you were going into the game?
Let's go out there and be ourselves. I trust those guys, and I would hope and I would say that they trust me as well too. But it's just about going out there, having each other's back, and one play at a time doing our job.
Let's go through a couple of those plays. Can you take me through the scoring pass to Garrett in the corner?
Yeah, so they had Brown cover zero a couple times towards the end of that drive. One of them I had to throw away over his head, and I just thought I could give him a chance. Obviously, Garrett is one of the better receivers in this league, and you give him a 50-50 chance. It's more 80-20 when he's around it. So give him a chance to make a play, and he went up and made a great play.
How about the two-pointer to Conk?
Yeah, we had to change personnel just from a numbers situation, but we talked about that at the TV timeout on the sideline, and it opened up. The safety ended up taking the switch release, and he was one-on-one with the outside back hurt nickel. He was able to slip him inside and get up the seam.
Speaking about opening it up, how about the touchdown pass to Conk over the middle?
Yeah. Conk is a great player. He's played at a high level for us this year. looking forward to continue to keep. Well, that was the one I explained. So the 2-point conversion was the all-out coverage zero. Just had leverage on that one.
Right.
But that one, the one up the middle, was something that we talked about on the sideline, trying to create a switch release. Again, with a mismatch.
What was the message from the veterans in here? You're in your 14th year. When you come into this room after the game, it's been a disappointing season, and this game just got out of whack.
Yeah, I mean, I think Quincy said it best, and he spoke. At the end of the day, obviously, we're out of the playoffs, and this season hasn't went the way that we've wanted it to go. But when you're not in the room, and he said this, the film is what speaks for yourself. So you want to finish off on a good note. We're all getting evaluated. We all are asked to do a job. We want to be able to do that week in and week out at a high level, and it's up to us to finish off on a good note.
What's it like for you here seeing the Bills on the opposite side, a team that you started your career with in terms of starting and knowing where they're going?
I'm happy for them. We was able to start, I would say, this shift or this change or the feel that you felt today in this stadium. I think we started that back in 2017, breaking that 17-year drought. And obviously proud about that. They've been able to continue to keep building momentum with that. So happy for Sean McDermott. Also happy for Josh. I hope that they do well. Never know, but at the end of the day, it's about focusing on what's in this locker room. It felt good to come back into Buffalo. It's always love when I come here, so it felt good.
Rod, appreciate your time.
Thank you. God bless.
All right, Jets fans, make sure you're voting for longtime Jet fan Joe Abramsky, a retired FDNY 9/11 responder, to be crowned the 2024 NFL Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan at Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. Scan the QR code to learn more about Joe and cast your vote. All right, Leger, you're gracing us with some film breakdown, I hear. It's almost as if he called it in the pregame show. He said Will McDonald was going to be an X factor, and what do you know? We have 2 plays from Will McDonald. Leger, you can take it away from here.
Yeah, Carolina. Maybe I should play the lottery right here. Will McDonald, right? This is his maturation as a pass rusher. Sells the inside move, beats Deion Dawkins, who's a Pro Bowl tackle on the outside, but it's all the selling the inside. And everybody knows Will McDonald has that patented spin move inside. He sells the inside, makes Deion Dawkins overcommit, and then he beats him on the edge. But look at the athletic ability. He's crawling on the ground full speed to get to Josh Allen and almost throws the interception. Now that you beat him on the outside, Deion Dawkins is aggressive on the outside set. That patented spin move comes into play, right? It's the counter off the speed on the outside. I just love the growth of Will McDonald. I know a lot of people weren't excited about this pick. I was, because I spent time with him at the Senior Bowl, and I knew the athletic ability he had. But look at this. Look at the athletic ability to spin, leave Deion Dawkins behind, and the ability to get vertical and not allow Josh Allen to get out the pocket. Ethan, we talked about that at nauseum in the pregame, not letting Josh Allen get outside the pocket. Good job right there by Will McDonald, not only spinning inside, but then getting back vertical to make sure Josh Allen doesn't get outside.
And the one thing I want to say about Will McDonald, entering this game, he had generated the 8th most pressures in the NFL this season. Last season, he had 15 pressures. He had 3 sacks last year. We're talking about second-year growth from players in the NFL. And for Will McDonald, he has 10 or entered with 10 into Week 17. So to Leger's point, what he just detailed might not be sacks. They don't show up in the stat sheet like that, but he is very heavily impacting the game throughout.
Right, and I know Leger was saying good job to Will McDonald, but good job to you, Leger. You called that from the beginning. Nice film breakdown presented by Microsoft Surface. I appreciated
I'm gonna play the
that
lottery
one.
Tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe buy me a ticket too. All right, let's go into our game summary and let's look at kind of how the game unfolded. Their total passing yards, or the total yards, Jets had 281. The Bills had 348. Passing net, 169 for the Jets compared to 251 for the Bills. Rushing net, 112 for the Jets versus just 97 for the Bills. And then you can see the third down percentages as followed. Now, Leger, I know we touched on it a little bit. That rushing net, were you surprised at that total from both sides?
I was more surprised from the Jets because, Ethan detailed in the beginning, Breece Hall has had a field day with the Bills defense when it comes to running the football, and he did in the first quarter, but the Jets just didn't stay with him. Wasn't too surprised the Jets were able to mitigate the run game. For some odd reason, James Cook just does not have a good game against the Jets. I think he averaged around 3.5 a carry today versus the Jets. They just do a really good job bottling him up. Usually the Jets have issues containing Josh Allen and his mobility, but they also did a really good job doing that as well. So from that standpoint, Carolina, I'm more surprised the Jets didn't have more net rushing yards because of the success that Breece Hall has had in the past versus Buffalo Bills defense.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we're going to hear from Eric Allen, who spoke with Tyler Conklin after the game as well. He had a few words.
Tyler, how disappointing was this outcome? Seems like you guys were in that game early, and then it was an avalanche.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of a little bit of a microcosm of the whole season, right? Just we kept shooting ourselves in the foot, whether it's penalties or whatever it may be. I feel like, like you said, first half is 12-0. We were moving the ball and doing some things. It just seemed like we kind of shot ourselves in the foot when in really bad times. So, and then obviously in the second half, it's embarrassing a little bit to lose like that, but it is what it is.
How disappointing was it those first two drives when you guys got deep into their territory, unable to come up with points there, turn the ball over on downs, and then there was an interception off a deflected pass?
Yeah, I mean, that hurts. You have two long drives, and you're doing some good things. You're moving the ball, and it's deflating when you're doing what you need to do, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you stall out on, don't get a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 or whatever it may be, and then obviously the deflection and the pick, it can be deflating for sure.
How difficult is it when you have the 3 turnovers and it seems like every time you turn the ball over, they're cashing in on the short fields with touchdowns?
Yeah, I mean, they're a hell of a team, right? They're in the spot that they're in for a reason. If you want to come in here and upset a team like that, you can't do things. You can't turn the ball over. You can't have penalties like we had. I mean, you can't do what we did in a game like this versus a team like that and expect for it to be a win.
You fought to the final gun, though. Can you tell me your thoughts when Tyrod enters the game and you get a couple scores there to close? Yeah,
I mean, first of all, Tyrod's just awesome teammate, awesome person. The way he goes about his work every single day. It's admirable, I guess, to say the least, just to see what he does day in and day out. So to be able to go out there and get in the end zone for him on 2 different occasions, and to not quit as a unit and play for your guys. I mean, that is important when you're in a situation like this where you're not playing for much, right? It was ugly, but the one thing you can't do as a man, as a professional, is quit. So I guess I'm happy about that. That's not quitting on each other, but and I'm happy for Tyrod. I mean, that's good. It's a good way to go out for him.
Obviously a one-sided outcome, but can you talk about those 2 plays, the two-point conversion there, and then the touchdown from yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a good call, and kind of all go with a switch release, and the safety came down, and I mean, Tyrod threw it before I even got my head around, and it was wide open. So, in a 2-point, Allen came down. It's a play we always kind of have we have it often at least, and Allen did a good job of kind of getting away, and it was wide open. So I didn't have to do too much but catch the ball.
Thanks, Conk.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Jets fans, the New York Jets and Duncan are back with another sweepstakes. Text SIPS to 26154 for your chance to win 2 2025 Jets season tickets and a free year of Dunkin' Coffee. Terms and conditions may apply. Now, Leger, quickly before we hear from another veteran on the Jets team, there's been a lot of veterans talking post-game. We just heard from Tyler Conklin. We're about to hear from linebacker Quincy Williams. From your experience, what kind of presence does that veteran leadership bring after a game like this one?
Yeah, your team usually goes how your veteran leaders act and the way they speak up, right? So just hearing Tyler Conklin, kind of admitting like that was kind of an embarrassing performance. At the end of the day, as men, as teammates, we got to go out there and, compete and play at a high level. So it's always great that you have guys that are in that leadership position that can hold everybody accountable, and also that brings everybody together, because in situations like this, Ethan and Caroline, usually it can split a locker room, especially after the ugly loss. But love to see that, guys like Tyrod and Tyler Conklin are speaking up about still competing at the end. I love that I saw the offense continue to compete, even though the game had kind of snowballed away from them at the end, getting 2 scoring drives at the end, letting everybody know that they're going to continue to fight through the end of the game. That's the type of effort you want to see at the end of a game of a blowout.
All right, let's hear from another leader, this time on defense, linebacker Quincy Williams.
Quincy, after a game like this, you are one of the leaders on this team. What kind of message do you have for the guys in the room?
Really, man, that it's an evaluation, man. We got one more game guaranteed. Man, we got one more game. So the most important thing was finishing, and then also what you put on tape going to go with you everywhere. They're not going to look at the score, not going to look at the time on the clock, but what you put on tape, bro, finishing, man, a game like that where you're, let's be honest, you're getting blowed out. They looking for people to relent. They looking for people to check out. They're looking for people to see, like, who's going to actually finish the game type mindset. So that was just the message I gave them, man. We got one more guaranteed, bro, so just put what you got on tape.
Is it shocking? What's your feeling as you're an ultimate competitor when you look at the scoreboard there in the second half and it's 40-0?
I'm a realist, bro. First thing I said was a piss poor performance, and then I'm talking about as a team, offense, defense, special teams, bro. Everybody together. I'm a part of this team, bro. So I looked at myself first. Where can I be better? Then also, where can I be better as a leader to get us ready during the week? So I'm a realist, bro.
Yeah.
So.
When you look at the penalties today, I think there was 15 in all marked off. How disappointed are you in terms of the collective as far as discipline is concerned?
Most importantly, the ones that are what we call non-hustle penalties. Those are the penalties like after the play, the unnecessary roughness, as far as like man, just being a hothead, really, man. So as we do every week, go back, looking at the penalties, looking at the film, and we grade them as far as like which one of what we call non-hustle penalty and hustle penalty. We had a couple of hustle penalties that was questionable, but I mean, hey, we play a good game, so don't leave it up to the refs.
You just mentioned before about the overall performance. Would you say lack of complementary football is what plagued you guys today? Because it seems like they took the ball away, cashed in on their takeaways. Conversely, you guys had trouble at times getting the Bills off the field.
Yeah. Complementing football, giving our offense multiple chances, that's our mindset, and that's our job on the field. So we didn't do that. And then also when we get those sudden change type moments, no matter where the ball is, our goal is to keep them out the end zone or keep them to 3, and we didn't do that also. So like I said, me being a leader, number one, I look at myself, and then me looking at the defense first, and we didn't get that done. So now it's like going through the week, where can we get better? Do we need to add some sudden changes in the practice, so we'll be ready and have our calls and everything ready, mindset ready, and things like that.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Great to hear from Quincy Williams. Now make sure, if you want to hear more about the Jets, to tune into some Jets programming later tonight. Now, we have One JD Films presenting new episodes every Saturday at 11:35 p.m. Jets Game Day airs Sundays at 7:30 a.m. and Jets Late Night Sundays at 11:35 p.m. all on CBS New York all season long. Now, before we go, final thoughts. Leger, the Jets host the Miami Dolphins next week. What are some changes that they can make from this game to next week that you want to see?
Yeah, first and foremost, you got to clean up the penalties. You heard Quincy Williams speak on that, right? You talk about the penalties that are non-hustle penalties, and we spoke about this earlier. You can't have the unnecessary roughness penalties. You can't have the roughing the quarterback penalties. Those are the things that you can control as a player, right? Again, some of those combative penalties, those happen in between the whistle. But those post-whistle penalties, you have to fix. Also, it's a divisional game, right? We talked about this in the beginning, the mentality of your team, right? You're out of playoff contention. You just got blowed out this game, right? This is the final game at home. You just never know when this game is going to be over for you. So you need to relish in these opportunities. Quincy said it, right? We get one more guaranteed opportunity to go out there and play with this team, because every team every year is going to be different. So it's not going to be the same exact team next year. So again, the mentality of this team, that's what I want to see in front of the home base for one final game for this 2024-2025 season.
Yeah, I'm in a similar spot to Leger, where if you're a fan of the New York Jets, obviously you're disappointed, much like the players and coaches are, that the way the season has turned out. You have one final opportunity in front of your home fans to put on a performance against a divisional foe. And look, I think that obviously, like the NFL, every offseason there are a lot of changes. There will obviously be a lot of changes for the Jets, who have an interim head coach, an interim general manager. And so for the Jets and Week 18, whether it's Aaron Rodgers in the offense or Quincy Williams, for example, in the defense to put on a strong performance to end the season on a high note. Like, you want to watch competitive football, and the Jets have a roster, like Devontae Adams said postgame in the locker room, that can go locker to locker, name to name with pretty much everyone in the NFL. Obviously, that hasn't culminated the way that the green and white have wanted it to this season, but they have one more final opportunity to put something on paper, or to take something from paper, put it on the field, and take good drives that we've seen over the last 2 games and put up points in front of the green and white faithful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with both of what Leger and Ethan just said. I think the most important message is, you've heard it from Coach Ulbrich, you've heard it from Leger, you've heard it from even Sauce Gardner postgame, saying that you never know what this locker room will look like in the future. So if you're going to play for anyone, play for each other at the end of the day. And I'm expecting to see that next week when the Jets take on Miami, and expecting to see them really put all of their product out on the field. So that's all it from us. Thanks, everybody, so much for joining us for Jets Overtime, presented by SiriusXM. We will be back here next week when the Jets take on Miami, and another little divisional game for them, last game of the 2024 season to close it out. We will be here, so make sure you're tuning in on all of our channels. But thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and we wish all of you a Happy New Year.